Real Agriculture comes to you today from the Ontario Agricultural College at the University of Guelph, and we're going to talk baseball. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit of baseball and a little bit of green grass. And I'm joined by Eric Lyons, University Professor, Plant Agriculture here at Guelph. And Eric and his team have been given the job to try to make grass grow at Rogers Centre by the Toronto Blue Jays. And it's something you've been working on a little bit. Tell us about this opportunity. It's pretty exciting.
It is. It's a very exciting opportunity because it's a chance to kind of put into application basic plant science. So we all know plants need light, they need air movement, they need soil, they need all these things. And when you try to grow it in a building, it gets a lot harder.
Yeah. Now let's look at Rogers Centre. Now it's a multi-purpose indoor facility that was never really built for grass. Any facilities around the world that have natural grass and those type of things?
There are facilities like that around the world that have grass indoors that are multi-use facilities, but they were engineered to have grass indoors.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot to learn from them, and they've made a lot of mistakes along the way, and the engineers have fallen short in some cases or over-engineered in other 8 cases. And so we have a lot to learn, and we've learned a lot, and now I think moving forward there is a possibility to do this.
So when you look at Rogers Centre, I mean, there's agronomy and environment we'll talk about in a minute, but talk about, I guess, the engineering challenges and the environment and the challenges of actually bringing grass and soil and moisture into that facility.
The hardest part about that facility is it was not designed to be outdoors. So when the roof is open, it has to be ideal weather. You can't have rainfall on the stands and the speakers and all that. It's electrical systems, it's heating, ventilation systems, and air conditioning systems weren't meant to be open during inclement weather. So they're not wired properly, they're not vented properly. So there's a lot of engineering challenges facing that building. And so that means the roof has to be closed a lot more than we would want it to be closed.
Right.
Also, there's got to be major changes to the roof opening and closing system because it takes a while to close, and it takes a while to open, and if they can speed that up, they can leave it open more, allowing more natural light. And finally, the building it has airflow and air conditioning to deal with 55,000 people, but it doesn't have airflow and air conditioning to deal with 55,000 people plus transpiring plants.
Right.
And that's a huge humidity load that we have to make sure that the building can be retrofitted to handle.
Right. Talk about, I guess, that environment and agronomy, about what you're going to need there, what's going to make that work for grass to grow, and be a good turf.
Well, the term that's often thrown around in professional sports or in sports field management is game-ready turf. So it not only looks good, it not only plays good, but it wears.
Right.
So it's not just about growing a plant that looks good. You then have to be able to run on it for 2 or 3 hours and still have it look good the next day, and the next day, and then 3 days later. And so it's more than just producing a pretty turf, it's using a wearable turf. And anyone who grows plants knows that when it gets humid, they tend to get diseases. And so mitigating the humidity that is created by the plants is very essential in lowering disease pressure. So that's an engineering problem. Also, the less sunlight plants get, so shaded plants tend to be less healthy, grow less vigorously. So, in a field crops, if you have a lot of weeds and you have a shaded crop, it's not going to be as healthy, it's going to reduce your yield. In a dome stadium, you're not getting the daily light integral you need. So we need to supply more light. Well, no, we need to supply more light. So we have the air movement for the disease and then the light for the growth. And we need to supply both of those in an efficient manner in a building that's 28 years old.
A challenge, no doubt. Talk about, I guess, you probably got some thoughts on what grass species is going to work in there based on some research and some things that have been successful. Talk about that part of the process.
The grass species, there's lots of turf grasses out there. There's a lot of ideas that turf grasses are monocultures. So when you look at a lawn, there's just one species out there. There's actually a number of different species and a number of cultivars within those species that make up that lawn. And when we go to professional sports fields, it tends to be one species or 2 that look very similar because that consistency is so important. But yeah, we're probably going to go with a cool season grass, not a warm season grass. So C3 photosynthesizing plant. So that limits us to Kentucky bluegrass, perennial ryegrass. We'll probably avoid some of the other grasses that could be because they don't survive the low mowing or the less traffic tolerance. And then there's a few dark horses out there that I'm keeping close to the chest that I think will probably perform the best, but they might not perform at game-ready turf, and the fact that they're not going to look as nice as people like a professional field to look.
Tell me about, I mean, how much soil do you need to put on the bed of that? I mean, are you looking at a foot, or how much topsoil?
Generally, when we build construction root zones for growing turf, we use 12 inches or 30 centimeters. And that's kind of an arbitrary number based on golf green construction and the engineering behind golf greens, which have a cup in it, and there's a depth of the cup. And so 12 inches is what we use. But a lot of modern sports fields, because top dressing mix is expensive, especially at a university or a municipal setting, we tend to go with a shallower root zone. So 6 inches or 15 centimeters seems to be sufficient in many cases. So anywhere from 15 to 25 centimeters, or I guess that would be 6 to 10 inches, is probably where we'll end up. And it depends on the particle size distribution of the material we're using, and then the drainage system that they're able to put underneath that, and whether they're able to pull excess water out and make sure that the roots won't clog up that drainage system once the grass starts growing.
Right. Hey, so the Blue Jays would like, I think, to be playing on grass in 2018. What's your schedule, the plan for the next year?
The plan for the next year is to three or four main goals. The first, be able to estimate the amount of humidity that they're going to have to mitigate in that building so that they can start talking to engineers and architects and those people to start engineering that solution. The second is to determine the daily light integral of different grasses that we may use. The third is to choose the grass that would be the best chance for survival. And then the fourth one is one that leads to the next step of research, which is to observe the climate and the air movement within the Rogers Center as it exists today, so that next year, if it moves forward, we can continue to do research on larger plots with wear in a simulated Rogers Center environment to move it to that next level so that we have a good management plan when they go to natural grass.
Well, hey, fascinating project. Good luck with it, and I hope we see grass and the World Series in 2018.
That would be great.